Next topic is therapeutic cloning. The word therapeutic refers to the branch of medicine that deals with the treatment of diseases. Cloning we already know. So how therapeutic cloning is useful in treatment of diseases is what we are going to study here. Now, stem cells can be derived from the cell formed in the laboratory by reunion of somatic cell nucleus with the enucleated egg cell. Now, somatic cell nucleus will contain a complete set of chromosomes. This is what we are studying with reference to human beings. So, the nucleus of a somatic cell will contain 46 chromosomes or 23 pairs of chromosomes. So, such a nucleus is taken and it is inserted into an egg cell. But this egg cell is enucleated, that is, nucleus is removed. Now, after the fusion of the egg cell with the nucleus of the somatic cell, uh, this cell that we have got is allowed to grow in the laboratory in a culture under controlled conditions. So what we get are the stem cells or embryonic stem cells. They multiply. In the laboratory, this cell will be allowed to multiply under controlled conditions and the culture medium that it is going to be provided. So the stem cells, we know they are capable of differentiating into different types of cells, and from those cells we can make tissues and organs. So various diseases can be treated with the help of these stem cells. Similar to cells, genes can also be cloned and millions of copies of the same gene can be produced. Those can be used for gene therapy and other purposes. Therapeutic cloning could allow a individual's own cells to be used to treat or cure that person's disease without risk of introducing foreign cells and that may be rejected. So sometimes at a later stage, it may so happen that the person may have an organ failure and needs a transplant. So if therapeutic cloning is done, the person's own cells can be used as stem cells, which differentiate and give rise to an organ. And this organ can be used for transplant. So he doesn't have to depend upon somebody else for an organ transplant, because every time a transplant would be successful is not guaranteed. At times, the body rejects the foreign cells and the transplant doesn't work out. So in case of therapeutic cloning, because the stem cells are the person's own cells that are used to develop the organ, uh, it has a advantage. So this is what is therapeutic cloning. Here a diagrammatic representation of therapeutic cloning has been shared with you. How the fusion between somatic cell nucleus and the egg cell is brought about, giving rise to embryonic cells which are grown in culture medium in controlled conditions, and they give rise to various different types of cells followed by the formation of an organ. Let us see what are the applications of biotechnology in the manufacturing of various industrial products. Industrial chemicals are produced by less expensive methods. So various industrial substances, chemicals that are prepared can be prepared economically by making use of biotechnological means. For example, alcohol from sugar molasses using transgenic yeast. So this method of preparation of alcohol we have already studied number of times, and the waste material like molasses can be used, and an important substance or a chemical like alcohol, which has got so many other uses, can be prepared. Now let us see what are the applications of biotechnology in the field of environment. Sewage and solid waste is released into rivers only after oxidation using microbial technique. Sewage is the domestic wastewater or the industrial wastewater that is released. And this wastewater even comprises of some solid waste, which is also called sludge. Now the sewage and solids waste is rich in organic matter. Now if this water is directly released into rivers or nearby water source, the organic matter present here will use up all the dissolved oxygen in water. Now, if it is going to use up all the dissolved oxygen, the level of oxygen will decrease and the aquatic plants and animals will not get enough of oxygen. So what we do is we treat the sewage and the solid waste with microorganisms, and these microorganisms convert the organic matter into oxidized form. They oxidize the organic matter. So if the organic matter is oxidized, and then if this water is going to be released, it will not use up the dissolved oxygen of the rivers. So this is one method. Large scale production of compost by treatment of organic waste material. So we have anaerobic microorganisms, and these microorganisms break down the various organic matter, and they can convert it into compost. So this is one way in which huge garbage which is produced can be treated, and we can help the environment by decreasing the amount of waste. Then we have bioremediation. By bioremediation, we mean use of microorganisms to prevent the environment from getting polluted. So how microbes can help us to prevent the environment from pollution is what we study under bioremediation. Phytoremediation. By phytoremediation, we mean absorption or destruction of toxic chemicals with the help of plants. So in bioremediation, we are making use of microbes, but in phytoremediation, we are making use of plants. And what are these plants doing? They are absorbing or either destroying toxic chemicals that are present in soil, water, etc. Then we have biofertilizers. We have studied about Azolla, which is a plant, Azotobacter or Anabaena nostoc, which are present in the soil. They are the bacteria which are present in the soil, and they help in nitrogen fixation. Then we have biopesticides. Spinosad, one example we had studied. Biosensors are new concepts in biotechnology. So these are new concepts in biotechnology, and in the next slide we will study about the various examples related to bioremediation, phytoremediation and biosensors. Let us take up a few examples of biosensors. A biosensor uses organisms which respond to toxic substances at much lower level than us of their presence. For example, a canary in a cage can be used by miners to warn of a gas. Now, these coal miners, those people who work in coal mines, they have to go very deep down inside the ground, about 55 to 90 meters, that is almost 180 to 300 feet inside the earth in order to get the coal. So they have to go very deep down, and at such depth there may be some kind of a gas leak. But this leakage cannot be detected by us because our sensory organs are not that well developed. The sense of smell is not that developed. But a small canary, which is a small bird, is generally carried by the miners because this canary, which acts as a biosensor, can sense any kind of a gas leak at much lower levels and which we cannot detect. So a canary becomes a biosensor, and it can sense toxic substances at much lower level than us. So this is one example. Next is blood glucose biosensor. Uses an enzyme to break down blood glucose level. So we have a blood glucose biosensor which is in the form of an enzyme. Now this enzyme can detect the presence of blood glucose, and if the glucose level rises beyond a certain limit, what will the enzyme do is it will break down the excess glucose. So this is very useful in people suffering from diabetes. So blood glucose biosensor uses an enzyme to break down blood glucose down, because in them the blood glucose level increases and it can be life threatening. So this enzyme can detect the presence of blood glucose, and as soon as it becomes more than uh, that is required, it will break down the excess glucose. So this is one example. Detection of pesticides in river water. This also can be done with the help of biosensors. There can be photometric, optical and electrochemical biosensors. So these are all examples of biosensors.